Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. I'm back in the shop working on the Super C, and the goal in this episode is to get all four wheels back on. It's a lot of work to get this done, and I'm going to be doing it over multiple days, and I'll stitch them all together into one video. Oh yeah, and the other thing I want to do is get the brakes back together and on. We'll get that done too. I got the wheel centers for the front wheels all cleaned off. That's a fun job. Cleaning the outside isn't so bad, but getting all the grease out of in here for people that seem to think you need to pack that whole cavity with grease, that's a real pain in the butt. A lot of washing and scrubbing. I'm replacing the wheel bearings and races and all the seals in these, and I get these from Steiner. This pack comes with the inside and outside wheel bearings along with the cup that's pressed into the wheel center that goes on the outside of the bearing, the felt seals, and also the piece that the inner seal rides in, and then the inner seal comes separately from that. It's a rubber seal. First thing to do is to press the old races out. Here's one, there's one down the bottom, and then this is that piece that the seal rides on. We got to get all of them out. Just punch them out with a little punch. There's a slot inside so you can get a hold of them and set the punch on them. There's one of them. Now I can flip this over and drive this race and this, whatever you want to call it, out at the same time. It's all gone. Clean up the bores that they ride in. There's a little bit of gunk in there. Oil her up a little bit. Then set in the new outer race. And then comes the whatchamacallit. It slides in, and then you have to seat it with a little friction at the very end. Just tap on a little bit. Then we can do the same thing to the other side. There we go, new races, ready to go. Put these in before I paint because I'm going to bash up things putting it on the vise and things. So get them in before you paint. Then put the covers on temporarily so they all get painted at once, and then you don't have to mask off the hole. The next job is to take a look at these brakes. Now I rebuilt them about 10 years ago. Well, this one's apart already. And I explained how they work when I first pulled the tractor apart. I believe that all these need are a good cleanup, so everything needs to be run through the parts washer. These surfaces need to be cleaned off with a grinder, and then I need to roughen up and clean off these discs. Well, what do we have here? We've got lots of nice shiny painted parts. New front wheels mounted on the rims, rear wheel centers all painted up. Brake housings, nice and shiny. Front wheel centers, yup. So I'm ready to start putting this girl back on her feet. First we gotta get her uncovered. Here are the new bearings and seals for the front wheels. So this is the inner cone, outer cone. This is the rubber seal that goes in the whatchamacallit. And then it came with two felt seals, which really confounded me because the parts book only shows one, and I had to do a little hunting around. And it turns out for some reason the wide fronts used a different inner felt than the narrow fronts. So this thinner white one is for a wide front. I don't need that. This fatter gray one is for a narrow front. And the way this all goes together is first you put the felt on. It's okay to put these on dry instead of soaking them in oil. They're just dust shields. And then this rubber seal goes on. It's this funny kind of cone shaped. The side that's open, that's got the spring on it, actually goes toward the outside in this case instead of the cavity side or the oil side or the grease side, and pushes on here. Now the inner wheel bearing goes on, already packed with grease. And then the wheel center. I'm squeaking around on a little stool I'm sitting on. Very nice. And then the outer packed wheel bearing. Feels nice. Then we have a washer and a castle nut. Of course, you tighten these down until you feel the right amount of drag. Here's front wheel number 2. Wheel center, I should say. One cotter pin. I put some extra grease in these caps. Does it make any difference? I don't think so, but can't hurt. Grease has got to be hot to migrate from one place to another. Hot and mushy and runny. And if it's that hot, you got other problems. Now we put the tires on. These got an anti-slip and rotate clamp on them. Needs to go in a recess here on the wheel center. Now I gotta remember which way these go on. That's always fun. These clamps can go on 26 different ways. And I always debate which way I'm gonna put them on. I think they're better this way on this tractor with this size rim. Yeah. Now for the other side. Now you can let the engine stands down, they'll stand on front wheels. And go ahead and take these splitting stands off. I think it's the last time I'm going to need them on this tractor, if everything goes well. Yep, we're going to need paint under there. Next thing to go on are these rear wheel centers. They're not as heavy as an H&M. Before I pulled these off, I took a measurement, and they were a little over 3 inches from the edge here. This tractor was set up for pulling a 2-bottom plow, so I want to leave them where they were, because I may pull a plow with it. This is the clamp that clamps the wheel in. Clamps it to the axle. And before I put the other wheel center on, this is the cross shaft that goes through the transmission that connects the brakes from one side to the other and the clutch pedal mounts to. These can be impossible to get and see how far it's hanging out. If I had waited till I had both centers on, I might have had a hard time putting it on. I don't know, might have been able to slide through a hole, but it's always safe to put it on first. There we go. And now for the wheel center on the other side. Three inches. Nope. Yep. All right, now let's talk about the brakes. This is the drum that goes outside the tractor, and I cleaned up the braking surface on that. These are the two expanders. Remember, the balls go in these 3 things, and they go like this. And these are all of the brake pads, discs, that I cleaned up. What I did is I put them on a piece of sandpaper and roughed them up this way like 60 grit sandpaper. Cleaned them all up. And what I found after cleaning all these up and then stacking everything in together, you know, first this disc, then this guy goes in, then a disc on top, is that I had too much clearance this way. This is with the old discs in there. See that clearance? That is, gosh, it's at least a 1/4 inch. That's too much. What happens if you get too much clearance, in other words, if those discs get too thin, is this expander has to expand quite a bit to engage the brakes, to get everything to rub together, and they don't work as well when they have to spread apart like that. You really want a minimum amount of expansion to start braking with. So I ordered these new discs from Steiner, and they're quite a bit thicker than the old ones. They're, I don't know, 1/16 or 3/32 thicker. It's funny, they changed the style. They all used to be bonded discs like this. Everybody sold them, and some bonded ones are for sale now, but they've gone to riveted ones also, and the material looks different. I hope they hold up longer. Now with the new discs in, you can see how much it's tightened up the clearance. What you want here, people debate it, but you want at least 20 thousandths. I've got at least 20 thousandths on both sides. and it can be up to 40 to 50 thousandths. You don't want to go much more than that. I still got one of these to put together, and I want to show you how it's done. This is graphite spray, graphite lubricant. This is the only thing I use inside these brakes. You don't want to use grease or never sees. You're going to wind up with caked up dust, and everything's going to get gummed up, and it's not going to work right. This stuff sprays on, and then the solvent evaporates and leaves the graphite to lubricate the balls. So it's a dry kind of lubrication. So you just lubricate the balls, and you got to make sure that these are clean and that they don't have flat spots worn in them. And the same thing for these ramps in here. Sometimes they'll get a wear spot worn in them from years and years of use. If you do that, you can take a little sanding drum and even it out that way. These were fine. You just put a little lubricant in this side. Then you put the sandwich together. These only go together one way. If things aren't fitting, then you got to put it together the other way. And then we got a yoke that goes in here that the brake rod goes on eventually. And that gets a cotter pin to hold it all together. And then to hold everything together and to help the brakes retract, you've got two springs that got to fit on here. And these springs are replacement items too. These were good though. I replaced these the last time I rebuilt them and they were just fine. Here we go. There's the braking assembly. Now we can put it together. First goes in one of the discs. And then you put this assembly in. It rides up and down these surfaces right here, and you want to make sure that they're clean and smooth. I don't put graphite on them because it gets onto the brake discs, and I really don't want that to happen. This should only go in one way. There you go. Now to put these on the tractor, the first thing I do is I lubricate these spline shafts with more of that graphite spray, because remember, you've got the discs moving on this, so you want a little bit of lubrication. And these could be a bugger to align if you got it all together and you put it on at once. So I put the first disc on before I put the brake on. Then I'll put the rest on. Turns out these aren't side specific, so same casting for both of them. You got to get these splines in the second disc to line up in here and then rotate it to get it to the right spot. There we go. Assembly number 2, right hand side. One thing to note too is, this clearance of the disc to the edge here all depends on how much wear you have in here too, like that braking surface is way down at the bottom. And with these older ones, you'd have to mill this down to hold it down if you had too much clearance with a new disc. On the models that came later in this, like on my 504's disc brakes, there's actually shims around here that you can remove to get the proper distance as the pads wear, as the discs wear. So if this had those shims, I could have taken some out and continued to use the pads that I have, but it doesn't have shims. She's coming right along. Unfortunately, that's all I can do today because I'm waiting on the tire shop for my rear tires. Well, what do we have here? Bright and shiny rear rims. I've run into holdups with the rear tires. I brought the old tires on the rims to my local tire shop and had them remove the tires from the rims because I've done that before. It's no fun. It's a lot easier for them to do it. And it took them a week to do that, which usually only takes them a couple days. And then I ran into problems ordering tires with them. These are 11.236s that I'm going to put on this. And it's kind of an odd size. They didn't seem in a great hurry to get them ordered. And then when they found out where they could find them, it was 2 weeks. So I said, well, the heck with that. I'm going to order them myself and put them on. And I'm waiting for them to come via truck freight. So it's going to take a little while, but I kind of got fed up. But while we're waiting for the tires, at least we can get the rims on the wheel centers. And these are so much easier than the clamped rear rims like on the H's and M's, because it's just a bolt, goes through to a clamp on the wheel. Oh, well, get on there. I said you were easy. You're supposed to prove me right here. just fit where you're supposed to go. There we go. I painted these rims after grinding them off with the knotted wire brush on a grinder with Rust-Oleum paint. I just use spray can paint. It's not worth buying and firing up the HVLP gun for just doing rims, and I've always had good luck with the Rust-Oleum aluminum colored. This is aluminum colored. It's not too shiny to be kind of gaudy. It does the job. And these are new bolts and nuts and such, all the hardware for the wheels I replaced because it was pretty rusty and, you know, worn down. These were originally square head bolts. You can get square head bolts for these through various sources. I find they're really expensive, and it's such a minor detail that only I'll notice it, the purists, but that's okay. The reason I'm putting the rims on before the tires are on the rims is because it's easier to mount the tires when the rims are on the tractor. It gives you a nice stable surface to put the rims or the tires on. You can actually hang the tire on the top and work it around. I used to do this when I restored tractors. I would always put on my own tires, and as I got older I said, well, I'll just leave that to the tire shop. But this time I'm going to do it myself again. And I'll just knuckle down, and when they come, put them on. Be nice to show it on video anyway. Putting on a tire always brings out the experts, just like packing a wheel bearing. So I guess we'll have to wait until the next episode to see the rear tires go on. Hopefully they'll come this week and I can get them on, and then we'll start painting more batches of parts and dressing this girl up and all of her accessories. I hope you enjoyed this video. It took me about a week to make it to get this far, but in between waiting for stuff, but that's the way it goes. Sometimes you get held up, just have to be patient. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.